When you boot up Miitopia for the first time, all it asks is a simple question. Choose a Mii to represent you. Design your own face, or if you're like me, pick the same Mii design you've had for yourself since you were like 9. Select a personality that you feel best fits you, and you're off. This is the world of Miitopia. It is a world where every Mii can live in peace and harmony. Or at least, it was. The darkness came without warning. A great and terrible shadow threatening all of Miitopia. An unspeakable evil fiend started stealing everyone's faces. And then, to add insult to injury, the fiend gave the faces to monsters. Behold, a simple traveler. You, or whoever you put in this place, it can be anyone. But again, this Mii is to represent you, and whether that is actually you or someone else, this is who you're spending the rest of the game as. A humble traveler with no visible stakes in anything about this world other than their own self-preservation. Right about to come face to face with one of these monsters that little intro spoke about. Your Mii is terrified by this, and sure, I mean, it would be like running into something like this, so I think it's completely justified. After his panic, my Mii takes a breather before spotting a town to wind down at, and setting forward here is where you start to see the true magic of Miitopia. In the game, every single character is a face you customize. That will extend to every major role, and the people you can put there range from anyone. Your only limit is how creative you can be with a Mii. Odds are, you know what this thing is. Miis were introduced alongside the Wii, being one of the biggest aspects that made the system click with casual gamers and hardcore fans alike. In a keynote speech at GDC 2007, Shigeru Miyamoto talks about his wife, who never really shared his passion for video games, started getting engrossed in them during the mid-2000s with Nintendo's push towards making games more accessible with the Wii and DS, mentioning how, quote, apparently she's made Miis of the whole family, extended relatives, and everyone in the neighborhood. The creation tool is simple to understand, while still being malleable to fit any sort of face. While these two characters I'm showing were made from the same basic Mii template, I've interchanged and rearranged their facial features to make them truly distinct. In that same keynote, Miyamoto also mentions that a character creator was something that Nintendo has been trying to do since the Famicom days, and it wasn't until the Wii where they perfected it. The issues Miyamoto and his team ran into with earlier character creators was that a tool like this needed to be understandable by everyone, and it needed to be a real game, not something you fuck around with making characters and having nothing to do with afterward. And all it took was a completely separate team working on an unrelated DS game that would lead to what he wanted, which eventually became Tomodachi Collection, and an expansion of the character creator from that game getting implemented with the Wii directly. You've made Miis before, you used them in Wii Sports, only the 4th best-selling game of all time. I like my odds for being right. To say what Nintendo had in their hands was a success would be an understatement. Satoru Iwata even mentioned that, quote, to Nintendo, licensing Mii is identical to licensing Mario. Creating one, it's easy to see why they became so relevant. The selection of every facial feature is catered to match as many elements and expressions you want to recreate as possible, and it only gets better from the Wii. With the 3DS and Wii U, you gain the ability to stretch certain features, and more options across the board were added, and the Switch version down the road gave a ton more color options in its Mii Maker as well. And that's only half the story. Miis wouldn't be as impactful as they are without their game functionality. They've got their own dedicated stuff like all of the Wii-labeled games, or they're just part of an unrelated game, like being playable in Mario Kart Wii, or letting them being save file icons in games like Mario Galaxy and Sonic Colors. New Super Mario Bros. U's initial title was New Super Mario Bros. Mii to highlight that you could play as them here. They thought the addition of them was that significant. In the full release, they're relegated to the side modes, and they aren't that impactful, but it wouldn't be a video for me without an offhanded Mario U reference, would it? You can play as them in Smash Bros, or the way you designate owners with amiibo figures. No matter how much their prevalence has waned from the Wii days, they still persist. But no system did them better in my opinion than the 3DS. Since the handheld was designed to be used by a single person, it meant you created a Mii to represent yourself system-wide, and you got to share that version of you with other people through Street Pass Mii Plaza. The game was all about connecting others, and that green light always meant something special to me. Hell, if I see that thing again today, that'll probably mean a ton more than it ever did. Like, dude, I would want to try to find and talk with the other person nearby carrying a 3DS on them in the year of our Lord 2026. The Miis could be used in a plethora of sub-games here to do whatever was needed of them, and it was a fun way to connect with one another. But I call out the 3DS because of two specific games. Tomodachi Life's been beloved for so long, and it's still surreal that we finally have a successor to that game, something I've been looking forward to despite never owning the original. And then the other one, Miitopia. The Miis had a ton of roles over the years, but none as significant in my eyes as the cast and characters of an entire RPG. The creator itself on the 3DS version is pretty similar to what Tomodachi Life had, the base set with a little bit of extra colors. Now, if you want to see what happens when the restraints are truly taken off, you gotta look at the Switch port. Makeup completely revolutionizes how these guys are created. You get to control everything down to the pupil and make them completely unrecognizable from anything you could achieve on the Wii if you want to. Here's what I was only capable of doing with Squidward from the 3DS version to what he looks like now. And most of these are just creations where I at least try to adhere to the general Mii art style. Dude, I have this Mii save that's just a $19 Fortnite card. There's so much potential available. Here, I'll show you an example. Right now, I'm trying to make a Metal Sonic Mii, specifically the one that looks like the f***ed up bootleg plushie. My biggest hurdles with this one were finding a shade of blue and a hairstyle I was satisfied with. While I can choose any possible color for the skin, I can't do that with the hair since that's a base Mii Maker element and I needed them to match. I also experimented a bit on what I wanted the hairstyle to be since I can't really recreate what's all going on over here. It took a bit to find one I liked. I even made the Mii bald while working on the makeup, but I settled with this one. Eyes were simple enough, we'll make the proper edits to them later. I really wanted to accentuate the f***ass nose the plushie has, so I'm going with this one, and I can easily hide the mouth behind it since I won't be needing it. Glad I can get to use the nose here, hiding it instead is always annoying. Lastly, before we move on to the makeup, the foundation option only changes the face color, not the overall skin, so I gotta make a decision here. It's not something I like about it since it leaves the part more limited, and it's kinda weird to look at these skin tones real people have and go, which one is the most blue? For here, I thought the yellowish pigment would kinda match the yellow plates Metal Sonic has on his hands. We'll use blush to recreate the metal muzzle since it's symmetrical and stays on the head instead of slightly floating off like everything else. And we'll do the same for the eye slots as well. From here, it's some eyeballing to get the eyeballs into the correct position before we can edit them to remove the white and extend them to line up with the screen. Then we can add some stickers for the ears. A mask would work here too, the only real difference is layering. All that's left is me finding that hairstyle and readjusting the ears to compensate for that, and we're done. It's simple to say you can completely break makeup open and just create a complete other form of character. But on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan that I have to actively try to make a Mii look like a Mii, so in some ways, I prefer what Tomodachi Life Living the Dream does. It's still the same Mii creator system, with additional facial features and more options for where colors can go, applying to skin, subcolors for hair and glasses, along with more sliders for things like blush and mustaches. And most significantly here, the face paint. Miitopia's makeup does have some advantages over it, like a simplicity factor and the ability to segment parts into different facial components, but here you have full control on what something will look like, because you get to draw it yourself. With time, I've really come around to it. To boil it down, on a scale of looking like a Mii and looking like the person or character it's based on, Miitopia leans more away from the Mii side and Living the Dream leans more towards it. But in terms of letting you create, Miitopia beats out Tomodachi Life pretty substantially. There's a whole section dedicated to the Miis you've made, which can sit here until you want to use them, with a limit of 300, much higher compared to Tomodachi's 70, where every Mii has to be committed to living on your island. Things get even better when you take a look at the demos of each game. Since the amount of Miis you have is important to progression, Tomodachi locks you to a measly 3. Miitopia's, on the other hand, only limits the main adventure. The Mii tab's untouched. If you just want to use the game as a Mii creator, you don't have to pay anything. The 300 Mii limit's still here. And by God, I've made a lot of Miis in the 5 years since the Switch port launched. By the way, if any Mii calls out to you in this video, my code is 2428DXX, and you'll get to know them soon enough. So let's see them in action. Bit boring today. Huh? What's up with you? Monsters with people's faces? You gotta be kidding me. Greenhorn's a peaceful place. A place to leave all your woes behind. That was Carefree Guide's Sonic the Hedgehog you just saw, the first of many roles throughout the game. And yes, I will be voicing all of them, at least the ones that have voices, despite how good or bad my impression of them may be. Have fun. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but if it makes enough sense to you, then it can be really charming. Like with Sonic here, the carefree guide isn't incentivized to do anything and is a bit lazy, but the two share that carefree nature and the thrill of excitement, as after the dust has settled from the Dark Lord attack later on, he craves something to capture the same feeling, of which is not that far away. Who you cast in this role is one of the most important choices you have to make, since they'll persist through the entire game's runtime. You need someone who would make sense as a Dark Lord, but not with someone too evil or it feels safe and predictable, at least how I see it. You need someone who would be funny in that role. I picked Peter Griffin.
Yeah. I am the Dark Lord Peter. I've come to wreak havoc and terror on this miserable little world. And I'm starting with you, people of Greenhorn. Time to taste true fear. Say goodbye to your faces.
Eek!
My little toadstool.
Rosalina! Oh, it's terrible. Their faces.
This will do nicely for now. Listen up, you faceless freaks. Get used to a life of wordless terror, because that's what you're stuck with. And those who've been spared, take a nice long look at your poor little friends, and despair! So long! Yeah.
See, come on, that is a perfect choice. All you can really do now is, well, take a nice long look at these people you just met and despair. I mean, I'm just a lonely traveler who has no stakes in this village. There is no way in a million years I'd be able to tangle with that behemoth of a villain. And yet...
Toadstool, my poor baby. Don't panic, don't panic. Oh, adventurer, I beg you, please. Please help my toadstool. Oh, thank you ever so much. I know. Please take this. It's a family's good luck charm. I fear the Dark Lord still lurks nearby. Could you maybe take a look outside town?
And regardless of what my meme may think of his own ability, he sets out. At this point, I don't know how to restore a face. I only just recently learned of the phenomenon, but I take the request of a poor worried mother anyway, because if there's a way to save this child, it's worth it. So no more wondering if I can even do it. I set out because maybe I can make a difference.
Nah. Is someone trying to be a big hero?
Give Toadstool's face back.
What, this whole thing? Maybe I will give this one back to you, but you'll have to earn it. How good are you in a fight?
Yep.
Be seeing you, if you survive, that is. Yeah.
Oh no! And suddenly, your generosity starts to pay off. That family heirloom you were handed connects you to a guardian spirit in the last moment to assist you. They're referred to as a god in the PAL version, by the way. I honestly prefer that. To make it through this fight, they bestow upon you power in any form you'd like. Miitopia's classes are referred to as jobs, and are a bit more unique than your traditional JRPG with what's offered. Sure, there's roles like warrior and mage that make sense to see, but then there's ones like pop star and chef that are a little outside the box to say the least. And you're able to start off with any job you like. It doesn't matter how good it'll be in this upcoming fight, you're free to smash that monster with whatever tool they give you, and in this playthrough, what better than a sword? would you look at that? Right within your first battle, its high attack power shines, especially accompanied by my cool personality and its quirk that lets me find the slime's weak point. Despite all odds and worries, I've ended up a hero to this young mushroom boy and his mother, and they're extremely grateful. And now, seeing a glimpse of what you're capable of, the Guardian Spirit has one more request. Defeat Dark Lord Peter and save everyone else. Simple enough. One good deed has now led my Mii to an entire quest he couldn't even conceive of doing himself 5 minutes ago, and all he can really do is agree to go along with it. You're not given much choice here, but if not you, who else? Who's gonna prevent more people from losing their faces, from being separated from one another? So, with a mix of determination and uncertainty, your journey officially unfolds. But it'd be nicer with someone else, no? Shortly into the first level, you'll be overwhelmed by 2 rock muffs. Remember, equivalent of this. And to aid me, the Guardian Spirit summons who else but Silver the Hedgehog, an air-headed cleric from the future, probably.
How did I get here? Let me help you.
Sure. We fight and win, he learns of my quest, and agrees to join me. As a cleric, Silver plays the healing role of the party, and you get the gist here. It's probably the best job in the game, but it's also one I never want to use myself. He's a pretty good complement to my current warrior job, which does a ton of damage and is super tanky, but also slow and starts up pretty limited with alternate move options. His airheadedness is one of 7 personalities you can assign to your party members. With it, he'll occasionally make mistakes with his attacking target or play with them. The key word with personalities is occasionally. When applicable, they can sway the battle in your direction a bit, but they're not something you should ever be concerned about. Take a look at my personality, Cool, as another frame of reference. I mostly just put it on myself because I was a 10-year-old when I first played this game, and I just haven't bothered to alter it to something that better describes me today because I like how it functions. I've already mentioned Pressure Point, but I'll also dodge attacks sometimes as well. Again, can be impactful in battle, but not tide-turning. Beyond battle, they'll influence different things like their voices, animations, dialogue, and the likes. It gives them more depth than some random occurrences in battle and makes your party members feel a bit more personal. I'll briefly touch on any new personalities when I get to them, but this is as far in depth I'll go in about the concept. In overall combat, it's your standard turn-based RPG, you know how these work. All except for one small quirk Miitopia has. See, I have no control over what Silver does in battle. He could heal me when I need it, or attack instead and leave me vulnerable. I just have to predict what he does and hope he makes the right move. On paper, this sounds like a net negative. It inevitably leads to sloppier combat on your end and makes you more likely to slip up. But the whole system is built with this in mind. You just have to trust your Miis. You can try and influence their decisions as well. If you want them to attack but think they're going to spend the turn healing, pop into the sprinkles menu mid-turn to bring them back up so they don't need to. Or restore their MP too while you're at it. If 2 or more party members are afflicted by a status effect, you gotta remember which one moves next in the turn order to effectively shuffle them through the safe spot to get everyone back to normal while also giving them a boost to both of their status bars. It's knowing when their turn is and expecting what move they're about to use in the current scenario. This is why I feel Cleric is better off on one of your party members instead of myself. When I only get one character control, I'd rather be the one doing damage. I already managed the team's health with sprinkles in the save spot, so it feels a bit redundant for me to do all that with my job as well. I'm all accounted for, I get to decide what moves I use, but that's not the case with everyone else, making battles frantic when you're falling short, because most of the time battles will be pretty simple and you can trust your Miis know what they're doing. In the levels you find these battles in, you watch your Miis run forward. Sometimes they'll run into things like split paths or treasure chests or have interactions with one another, but for the most part, all you do is sit back, hold the speed up button, and wait for something to happen. Really, it's just meant to hold you over until you get something to do. I'm not the first to say that this is less than ideal. It simplifies the game a lot, making it more idle and not as engaging. Your party members will say some phrases that can be strung into a coherent conversation, but is that all it's really got? It's not as big of a deal as they're making it out to be. It's more inoffensive than problematic. It really is just there to get you from one thing to another. It's the way we have to save everyone's faces though, starting with the citizens of Greenhorn. Silver and I navigate the world map, following traces of their faces and finding stronger boss monsters with complete faces attached to them. We also get 2 new people to help us in our quest, Klepto the Thief and Charlie the Chef. I'm not giving you any explanation what the hell this thing is, find one yourself. Both are laid back, meaning the moves may vary in power, and they'll also be a little indulgent to the team's fault. Chef's another healing role, which is nice to have in addition to Cleric, but Silver's gonna be the better healer. It's a pretty good attacking job as well, being able to power up their regular attacks with Flambe. It isn't the best at attacking, nor is it healing, but it does only take up 1 party slot for being pretty solid at both, so that's at least something. Thief, meanwhile, is one of the fastest roles in the game, hitting every enemy on screen at once for decent damage and laying traps to prevent any incoming attacks. It's not the most impactful role the game has, but I'm not complaining whenever I have one on my team. With these 2 new party members in tow, we slowly start rescuing each of the faces of Greenhorn citizens. There is a charm to seeing a face I designed slapped onto some sort of creature. Some design elements carry over nicely, others, not so much. During this stretch, you start to feel like a proper hero. Saving that child wasn't a fluke. I'm actually making a difference to this people, something that seemed improbable when I first met them. It's a pretty comforting feeling, knowing that I'm making an impact. You get to explore some new areas beyond the Eastern Hills too, like a forest and this cool cave which just glows blue with all the water surrounding it. The walking may be mindless, but man, does it look pretty when it wants to. During your travels though...
Well, look who it is! You just keep turning up like a bad penny.
Peter! Prepare to taste defeat!
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one. Well, since you want it so much, let's dance.
Hold it right there.
Who dares?
So you're this Dark Lord I've been hearing so much about. You won't be getting away for much longer. Not if I have anything to say about it.
This is the Great Sage Waluigi. He scares off the Dark Lord and officially introduces himself as your Recoup. He's a powerful, traveling mage that you'll see quite a bit as your journey progresses.
I sense a strange power within you now. You might not think it's much at the moment, but continue your journey and you'll grow and grow. So just hang in there.
This cutscene doesn't do much beyond establishing an important character, but it is reassuring that we're acquainted with someone who can stand up to the Dark Lord. Before I move on, one last general gameplay element I haven't yet covered. After beating a level, your Miis will spend the night in one of many inns, and these things are numerous. They directly mention that when you first interact with one. You'll even find some inside of other buildings. There really is no limit, just so it makes sense to end each level off with finding one. At an inn is where you tend to your Miis. Think like a simplified Tomodachi life for this. You can buy your Miis things that they can use later in the adventure, you can feed them where they have different likes and dislikes, and you can go gambling! Yeah! It's a nice place to rest, but you're never here for too long, and it's always a footnote. Here is where your Miis interact with each other the most, where you can watch them bond as an experience and as experience points. Your Miis each have friendship levels with each other, which are the biggest influences in battle. Depending on how well they get along, they'll show off to one another with an attack that does more damage, join in on the attack, warn each other about oncoming hits to fully avoid them, and a ton more that'll sway the game in your favor. The comparison to Tomodachi life rings true here the most. Those friendships you built up make the Miis feel like Miis. They distinguish Miitopia from other RPGs by being a super charming way to do better in battle. Those bonds will strengthen in multiple ways too, like when you get healed or protected from a hit, in addition to the standard cutscene stuff and sleeping in the same room as each other, or instead spending the night in the stable with a horse. Speaking of which, this is Glungo, a new addition with the Switch port. The party found him being heckled by monsters and he came to like us after saving him, so he gets to be part of battle. The horse just gives you the potential for a souped up regular attack every so often. It's another thing that can swing the battle in your direction, but not the most impactful. For this playthrough, I didn't really have any of my Miis spend the night in the stable. Are you kidding me? That sounds miserable. Let's fast forward to the end of our hunt for the faces of Greenhorn. With everyone back to normal, we've cleared the first major hurdle of our journey and solidified that we can do this. Mayor Maurice seems to think so too, entrusting us with informing the King of Greenhorn before any future attacks can happen. So, of course, we make our way there, and alright, here's how this part of the game goes. You catch King Homer Simpson of Greenhorn snacking as you warn him. He doesn't believe you and promptly gets his face stolen. You fight a golem, it's back, the job is done. Now that he does believe you, you gotta warn the princess. Princess Lily Pokemon is immediately concerned for her childhood best friend, Hugh Morris from Tomodachi Life Living the Dream Direct, the son of a besmirched noble that isn't much of anything, as seen by the fact that he does horribly against some goblins. You save him, tell Lily he's safe, the job is done. She's relieved, but King Homer reminds her to forget about him since she's betrothed to Prince Roy Koopa of the neighboring kingdom, and as it happens, he's visiting soon, so Homer asks you to go east to pick him up. You do, he's an asshole, but he has a pretty good theme song. He makes his way there unscathed, the job is done. This stretch of the game all depends if you f with the royal court subplot, because all it is from a gameplay perspective is just playing through the levels the game tells you to play to run the errands the king wants you to do. Look, I'm not going to care for a romance subplot where the love triangle is easily weighted towards one direction, but we are dealing with the Riz magnet that is Hugh Morris here. That makes it different. Who you cast completely makes or breaks it depending on who's in these roles, especially with the royal court. The person you put as one of the biggest people in the game better fit the role, and goddamn does Homer Simpson fit into it super well. And it's not just him. There's a ton of other characters that would make sense here, or maybe you just want to make one of your friends a king. It's all up to you. Every role within Miitopia isn't exceptionally written, but that lets them be a bit of a blank slate to allow whoever you choose, and all that matters is that you have fun with it. I mean, right now, it's turning what would be a pretty generic romance plot into something funnier than it has any right to just because of who is involved. Like, when Roy makes his way inside the castle, he catches Lily and Hugh together and bursts out in anger at him. Bro, it's just fun to see these two unrelated characters squabbling with each other in a serious manner like this. To de-escalate the situation, the king asks you to locate a calming fruit, and to be completely honest, it's not subtle at all that the quest to get this is to distract you away from the castle momentarily. It's the worst padding this segment has done yet, and doesn't feel impactful. Burgess gave me his grocery list and asked me to get his f***ass blue apple for him. You don't even get to use it! Because the conflict has changed. The Dark Lord has attacked the castle himself, leaving imps scattered around its floors and taking nothing but the princess's lovely face.
Dark Lord Peter stole away my beloved's beautiful face. I saw him heading towards Nightmare Tower. I'm so scared. But I must pursue the foul fiend. Wait here, Lily. I'll save the princess.
The place Hugh spoke of isn't that far from the castle, and your Mies immediately notice there's something wrong about this place. It's okay if you're scared, you know. How refreshingly honest of you. As a final stretch of levels you need to climb through in this subplot, you're challenged more than you have ever been before at this point, facing off against monsters like those imps you found at the castle and mage goblins stronger than the ones you've seen before, and it all culminates at the top against the final foe, one of the Dark Lord's top enforcers, and Hugh Morris is about to try and take it down. Which goes about as well as you'd expect. Now it's your turn! General Lily's got sweeping attacks that'll damage the whole party and charged punches to do massive damage, so it's important to keep the team in check as we keep the damage coming. It's difficult fights like these where both Sprinkles and the safe spot shine, shuffling who gets protected from damage and healed when they need it, and keeping every one of your Miis at high enough health. But we keep getting in hit after hit, and eventually the monster falls and the job is done.
Yeah. Oh, you've defeated one of my loyal servants. There goes my good mood. You'll pay for this. Oh yes, you'll pay. Just you wait.
With that, we can head back to the castle and save the Kingdom of Greenhorn one last time. But that's not all. Because Hugh was so brave to try and conquer the monster, that might lead to a change in arrangement, if the princess so pleases.
Oh, Lily.
But seriously, that Prince Roy, what a pathetic specimen he turned out to be.
Everything's settled at the castle, and the Dark Lord has fled eastward, so you're free to make your way that same direction. You journey back through the arid frontier once more, and I just really like this area for some reason. It's mountainous and dry, a big contrast to the rest of Greenhorn's soft meadows, and it's got good music to accompany you as you make your way forward.
Ian, if you'd wait just a minute, sir. Whew. Mennonite of the Castle Guard, sir. You're about to enter next door, the neighboring kingdom. Do be careful, sir. Now, I must return to the castle. By your leave.
Making your way there, the bond between the party is the strongest it's ever been. We've all got our backs in battle and look out for one another. One last time before we move on from Greenhorn, we camp out. This can happen at some other points in time, but this placement is a lot more deliberate. When camping, you get a selection of cutscenes you can watch between your Miis. This one involves me telling a scary story that pisses off Klepto for some reason. It's lighthearted fun all the way to the end. Until... So, while I was sleeping, the Dark Lord came and took my friends away and sealed away my warrior job. Awesome. Silver, Kleptoad, and Charlie have now been whisked away to this dingy-ass pocket in space, and you have to rebuild. It is nice that you get to try out new party members and a new job for yourself as well. But if you were like me and played this game without knowing about this plot element, you would think that your Greenhorn party is your only party. So when you don't know that, you have to be more selective with who you want, and when you do know, it's given less thought, since you expect to lose these guys as well. But I'm on like my 3rd or 4th playthrough of this game. Literally every single role in this game was pre-planned, so it doesn't concern me too much. As for my new job, I selected Mage, and yep, this is my favorite one in the game. It hits like a truck, with a good amount of variation to your attacks. But unlike Warrior, it's a lot faster, usually being one of the first to move unless a job that actively specializes in speed is present in the party. Its only big downside is that you have to heavily rely on MP, since your base attack ain't doing shit. But it's fast, flashy, and it hits hard, and I think that's why I gravitate towards it, and it goes through next door swiftly. This area is surrounded in sand, with the desert heat bombing around every corner. Now you're more experienced with what you're trying to tackle. Instead of starting out as someone who couldn't even fight properly, you now have the knowledge and resources to do this successfully once more. You'll regain your power level and gain new teammates along the way. The first of which being me, kinda. Again, it's the channel mascot. Potato Cat here is, well, a cat. One of the 3 new roles that was added to this part to spice things up. Think Warrior, but it trades its defense for speed. In different terms, this is the glass cannon job of the game. It's got really high attack that it'll always use immediately, but it is more prone to harsh damage. And since he's my mouthpiece, he's cool as well. What matters for me right now is that it's a solid way to get good damage onto enemies. And soon enough, you figure out what you're gonna go through this time from Great Sage Waluigi himself. By the way, you haven't seen a lamp around here, have you? Nope. I see. The thing is, I lost quite an important lamp. Quite a dangerous lamp indeed. If you lay eyes upon it, please, whatever you do, don't touch it. Be careful now. And as fate would have it, who else to find this lamp shortly after than Roy, and as desperate and sensible as he is right now, immediately responds to the promises of the spirit inside. And you know how the myth goes, he rubs it and bada boom, sans Undertale. And now with the lamp in your hand, the instructions on how to use it from the Great Sage, and 2 new party members, you need to trap the genie back in the lamp and get all the stuff he stole from the town of next door back to its citizens. First off, those 2 new jobs. As a scientist, Luigi's pretty similar to Mage, just with stats more evenly spread out. Not as effective special moves, but a usable attack stat. Meanwhile, imps like Magalore have pretty low HP and MP, but make up for that with a great variety of moves. It can skewer enemies from the floor and has a great amount of support moves to the team, one of the best in the game being Sweet Whispers, lowering the target's defense temporarily and allowing your damage dealers to go ham on whichever one that has their guard down. They're cautious and energetic respectively. Cautious means you sometimes wait until the end of the round to attack for big damage, but in niche scenarios, and I mean niche, I wasn't even able to get footage of it happening, they can one-shot an enemy. Energetic just means they can help restore MP to others and use a charged up base attack with recoil, but can also just live a fatal hit if you're lucky. The levels are pretty much the same as before, but you do get new scenarios, enemies, and even a new battle theme. Plus, surprisingly, there's a standout. Super early into the region, there's a side path with a fork in the road with 2 options, the safe route and the risky shortcut. Now, I wasn't gonna take the baby way, so I went towards the shortcut with reckless abandon and lost to the 2 griffins guarding it. And I kept coming back to it when I was a higher level, throwing myself at the griffins over and over in hopes that I would be able to prevail, while insisting that it was this way or no way. It didn't matter what point in Next Door's plot I was. Sometimes I just went, sure, maybe I'm powerful enough now. I wasn't even able to conquer it until I went back when I had a party member I didn't even have at that point. By then, I had long cleared the area out, but even then, it just stayed alluring until I beat it, and it felt so great to do so. We'll find the genie in the underground maze, which, given how gameplay works in Miitopia, is only one in name only. It doesn't take long to spot him lounging about with all the treasure he took, and nothing better to do besides recite the incantation, his name. I like in concept what they're doing here. Since the genie's name is customizable and is the incantation, that makes the character feel more like your own me. But you are the one who chose his name. You already knew it before any of this happened, so it does lose its appeal. Alright, hey, so this part had me talking about how in the 3DS version, this wasn't an issue because naming him delayed to the time you tried to steal him, but turns out that's just blatantly false. Like, I played the game on 3DS from start just to fact check this, and yeah, I just fabricated a complete lie somehow and wholeheartedly believed it. But like, pretend it was for a moment because it works so much better into my next segment. Before I continue, I do have to say my 3DS doesn't have a capture card hard modded, so everything you're seeing was streamed to my PC to record, and as a result, it looks really grainy and will stutter. Anyway, Miitopia on Switch fucking stinks. Like, you can tell that this was a 3DS game. It's extremely blatant. I mean, it's not the port's fault that the original version relied heavily on the use of a secondary touchscreen, to the point where you can play the game from start to finish without pressing a single button. The path you take is shown down there, your healing item in between turns are sprinkles so you get to shake them onto your Miis. The whole game is playable in 3D, something that was being phased out this late into the handheld's lifespan and was rare to see. This is a 3DS game through and through. But although releasing in Japan in 2016, it didn't come to the rest of the world until mid-2017, when the Switch was already out. So a lot less attention was given to the system then, and it continued to dwindle until Nintendo officially ended support in 2020. So that means it makes sense to bring the game over to a fresh audience, and it worked, with it outselling the 3DS version in only half a year. But oh my god, there are so many better ways this port could have been handled. Remember just how a minute ago I was talking about how much the 3DS version relied on the touchscreen? Yeah, there's none of that here, despite the Switch having a touchscreen itself. Obviously, I'm playing the game docked, so it wouldn't affect me regardless, but this is one of the few games I just feel perplexed by for not having touchscreen controls. Like, you wouldn't be able to adapt everything. I doubt they would have implemented the thumbstick on the bottom screen in Hub Worlds to be on the side, but still, none at all just bewilders me. Those paths that gave you a vague idea on where you were going, haphazardly placed in the corner. The sprinkles, now your only option here is to hold A over one of your Mii's heads. The 3D obviously doesn't work, and now the game's colors also look worse. And it's not like the Switch port's new additions make up for it. Addicts just feel kinda pointless at best and trivialize the act of building up friendships at worst. A part of the charm with dropping in on your Mii's in the rooms is that it's happening in the moment. You're catching a glimpse into their interpersonal relationships and watching their friendship grow. This just feels like you're making them bond, which is fine enough, I guess, but I feel like you get enough of that through the already implemented ways present. It gets to the point where I have several outing tickets piled up collecting dust because I just don't feel like using them. I'd also rather have them build them up with each other than spend multiple nights in a stable so an attack they can only do every so often does slightly more damage. I feel that with this playthrough, I just started neglecting the use of the horse, ignoring it whenever I felt like I had a better attack or just not having it build up friendships. I knew already that horse friendships leveled up twice as fast as Mii friendships and that the horse's cutscenes are a lot more frequent, but for some reason they weren't triggering until much later in the game, and by then I had already committed to not using the horse. And speaking of those cutscenes, my god, do they just lack the charm of the other ones. You just get the same ones over and over again. And while cutscenes between two Miis definitely are prone to repeating, at least it's with two different people. All of the horse cutscenes are with the same goddamn horse, and it just feels like everyone has the exact same feeling about them. It makes a horse feel like a pointless addition. Oh, but you know what really grinds my gears about the Switch port? Oh my fucking god, I loathe this sidebar with all of my heart. If you want to do anything when it isn't your turn, like using sprinkles, the save spot, or what have you, crucial elements to battle when you're not doing too hot, you gotta press X to open up this ugly ass sidebar that blocks a third of your screen. And it's so goddamn intrusive and super fucking slow. This is supposed to adapt what happened on the bottom screen in battles, where everything was just a simple click away from happening. They did have the sub-menu back then too, but it was still limited to the bottom screen, and it was practically pointless since you had access to all the options listed there without having to do that. This shit, though, butchers all of that smoothness and limits your options tremendously. Why couldn't things be set to L and R or something? They're not doing anything else. Or you could make the icons run down the bottom of the screen like it was on 3DS. Hell, just make the sidebar translucent for all I care. Just goddamn anything that doesn't disrupt battle as heavily as this stupid fucking sidebar that I hate. And worst of all with this port, they remove the :3 mouth when a Mii gets praised or reads something they like. What's even the point anymore? So with all this negativity surrounding it, why am I going with a Switch port for this video? First and most blatant, it's a hell of a lot easier to record. Just having a capture card is a lot simpler and produces way better footage than the stuff I had to stream for my surprisingly easy to mod 3DS. And second, makeup really is that good of a change, man. Wigs are more situational than anything, but dude, the amount of versatility you have here is unmatched by anything the original version can do. The only real knock I could give the system is that it just decides to turn off in certain scenarios and you can see the face underneath it, which is usually never a pretty sight. Despite everything, I continue to stomach through the game because my issues aren't game ruining, but there's a lot of elements that could have been handled better. When the genie goes to return all his stuff to next door is when the Dark Lord makes his move, sweeping across the town and stealing the faces of its residents just like you saw back in Greenhorn. This time, aside from 2 of them, all faces will be packed into the new pyramid area. You've seen stuff like this before. Fight the big scary monster with a full face attached to it, progress forward. Though this time, so you don't forget about the 2 stragglers I mentioned earlier, each face, or pair of faces in the case of Kasane, Teto, and Among Us, will give you one of 4 jewels that are needed to open the door blocking the final boss of the area, this pharaoh head with Santa's face slapped onto it. You defeat it, the day is saved, the genie blows away some boulders that were blocking your path, your team gets kidnapped by the Dark Lord again, bada boom, new area! Yeah, besides the desert and genie stuff, next door feels like more of the same. There's no proving yourself since you already did that, it's just going through similar motions and saving another town because it's your duty to clean up after the Dark Lord. It just makes your journey feel a little more limited, like there's only one way this is gonna happen, and the game starts to feel repetitive. It's the same battles against the same monsters per area with little to no variation, and all you're able to do is fight and prevail. While player freedom in who everyone is Miitopia's strongest aspect, the restrictive gameplay is its weakest. So a lot of enjoyment you get out of the game is dependent on who you cast in each role. And I think the best way to talk about this further is in our next location, the Realm of the Fae.
The elves are the spirits of the forest. They are most gifted in the use of magic. There'll be no pushovers if the Dark Lord attacks. Until we meet again.
Oh, by the way, I'm a scientist now. Like I said earlier, it's Mage Light, so I'm fine with rocking it here. The place you find yourself is now this giant forest that's a lot more mystical than what you've experienced so far. Besides all that though, it's more of the same gameplay-wise, like Dextor was. Now, on exactly what I meant on casting for this area. Every single role you see in this playthrough was predetermined before I started, so I knew how this place was going to look ahead of time. And that of course means the elves here. Some can fit really well, while others are a little bit loose. For example, there was no way that someone other than Vivian would be the mischievous witch, it fits too well. While a Waddlewing as Fat Fairies fan number 1 is more of a throwaway pick since both the role and character are pretty unremarkable, and the only reason I made them is because I have brain rot. Those Fab Fairies, who are the main focus of the area, being the retreat's leaders and protectors, are another shining example of this. We first meet up with the youngest sister, Princess Peach, who's rushing back to the retreat in a panic after she and her 2 other sisters fought the Dark Lord, with the battle ending in the faces of the 2 elder sisters getting taken. She then spots us and asks us a little firmly to help get them back. To be completely honest, Peach is only here as a last-minute addition. I thought she was a better match than who I originally planned for, though not by much. The only real similarity I'm going off of is the hair color, and to be frank, at this point I was starting to run out of women. The youngest sister is bold-headed, stubborn, and impatient, and I guess Peach can also be that if you look deep enough, but it's definitely not the first thing I think of about the character. Regardless, she's the one who's playing the role, and we'll find the other 2 sisters in Citrus Cave and Big Forest, respectively. Blaze the cat, as the oldest, does fit in a sense. Both have a regal energy and are soft-spoken, yet good in a fight. She's held back, however, by the appearance of the role. It overrides her hair with something that fits weaker, and the outfit shows a lot of skin, which, as I mentioned earlier, is still locked to the default skin option, so it feels pretty awkward. But there's a reason I skipped forward, because Madeline Celeste as the middle sister is one of the most fitting roles of my entire playthrough. They are both shy and are redheads. Sometimes it's just that simple. That's right. Yeah. I mean, the hairstyle could be bigger in volume, but it's such a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things. It's enough to make the role feel real and make sense in this world. That makes the middle sister stand out more than she would otherwise, all because I made an adaptation of a character and stuck it into this part. But even as clean of a fit as it is, it won't be perfect. If you want to get even closer, go play Tomodachi Life. Welcome to Wii U Island. And look, Madeline's here too. As good of a job she does as the middle sister, she's only relevant for the Realm of the Fae section of the game, but to be fair, not many are beyond their own section anyways. Meanwhile, every single Mii on the island is as relevant as the next, with the ones who get more attention being that way because of my own influence. And Madeline is up there on that list, mainly because she looks really cute and her voice sounds like this.
You're looking chipper, Mr. Munchkin.
Here, Madeline is just allowed to be Madeline, and so is Silver, and Luigi, and Meta Knight, and Sans, and Charlie, and me. It lets them be themselves rather than role-playing as someone else. Obviously, there's a lot of charm to that, but there is something special about letting them be themselves. Or at least as close as you're physically able to get in Tomodachi Life. I'm glad I played it so close to that Miitopia playthrough, since it gave me a deeper appreciation for certain characters and allowed me to see more I wanted to potentially add to the island. It also made me decide to do zero planning on who I wanted to add, unlike what I did here. I first started this playthrough of Miitopia on February 26. Every Mii was planned, and I knew who I wanted to play each role and was mostly content with it. I felt like it best represented my interests. Sure, not everything I liked was represented, but it didn't matter. I had who I had, and I was going for it. 5 days later, Scott Pilgrim EX came out, which not only reignited how much I love the franchise in one of the most powerful forms of brain rot I have experienced, but also turned Roxy Richter into one of my favorite characters like ever in the process. Like, I don't know, it's been like 2 months and I'm pretty sure she's somewhere in the top 10. But whatever, that's not the point I'm trying to make. Because of this, in the demo, Roxy ended up being the third islander I added, behind myself and Silver the Hedgehog, of course. And she's even dating Madeline, see, it comes full circle. And after her, I knew I wanted my island to have more instances like that. So instead of planning ahead like it did with Miitopia, I just added whoever I was feeling in the moment. And that's how I ended up with Mii's like Funky Kong, Snuffkin, the Onceler, Mii's that I hadn't been compelled to make in the 5 years I've owned Miitopia, with more to come. And of course, that Scott Pilgrim brainrot was furious. I wasn't gonna let Roxy be the only character. Wallace is also dating the Onceler. My island is fruity as hell. Like, if I had planned my island out, there would be no way King Babam would be on that list. Yet here he is because I added him off of a whim. This isn't me discrediting the approach I took with Miitopia. There's benefits to pre-planning, and I'm still happy with the direction I took that playthrough in. Plus, it's not like crazy inspiration can't strike there too. You may have noticed already, but I still haven't yet brought up my team for this area. 2 of them are pretty standard picks, Lorantis the Flower and Beat Unbeatable as a pop star. Both roles are designed for support, Flower being another flavor of cleric pretty much. It was the only role I was using in this playthrough that it hadn't before, so it was refreshing. And the pop star enabling other party members, whether giving them a new turn or heightening the party's friendship levels with them. Both were decent party members, but Rebel of the Fae is also home to the greatest addition to the roster I made, at least according to myself. Neither Lorantis or Beat are on my island, but much like how Scott Pilgrim EX influenced my 3rd islander, this playthrough of Miitopia influenced my 4th. Almost exclusively because of how much I adored having them on my team. That being Deltarune's The Roaring Knight. I fucking cackled when I first thought of making them a party member. Oh yeah, and everyone on my Tomodachi Life Island vibes with them and they're sick with it. They're a warrior like it was in Greenhorn, so I don't need to explain it again. But since there's someone other than myself, I don't care that the roll is slow. All that matters is that they will do insane damage and live to do it again. And dude, the Knight wasn't just the MVP of Realm of the Fae. They were for the rest of the fucking game. Alright, so there's these hyper sprinkles you get later on that basically lock me into their base attack so they can do a ton of extra damage. And it's really useful on party members with high attack already. And since the Knight was on my team most of the time, I just started calling the effect Swoon Mode, because whenever they got a taste of those sprinkles, they just wiped the floor with whoever we were facing. Even before that, still in the Realm of the Fae, they just carried. Their stubborn personality also helped a ton, occasionally boosting their already high defense and letting them attack again. Seriously, it cannot be overstated how much the Roaring Knight was the GOAT during the entire playthrough, being the most reliable source of damage I had all across it. And the Miis just made me appreciate the character they're based on a lot more. Like, hell yeah bro, they're cool as shit. Continuing with the journey at hand, when the 2 sisters are saved, the 3 can unite their powers to open the way towards the Dark Lord for us, in a silly dance number that's both weird and charming.
Yeah. Thanks for opening the door, ladies. You've been a great help. Fools. Yeah. see you try that wimpy fairy magic now. And now it's time to pay a visit to all your little elf friends. Yeah.
And like the times before, the area's town is ransacked of their faces, and it's your job to get them back. This time Blaze is joining you, like the two sisters before her. I neglected to mention it earlier, but the Realm of the Fae introduces the concept of 5th party members, who will have their own turn every so often, but less frequently than your own members. In turn, they won't have their own HP and MP you need to worry about. The 3 Fab Fairies are pretty simple in this regard to help ease players into the concept. Each only has a basic attack and a special move, the youngest being able to attack and stun an enemy for a single turn, the middle counter-attacking ongoing enemies heading towards one of your own party members, and the eldest able to heal up the whole party at once. It's not the biggest boost to you, but the help is much appreciated. Like in Next Door, there's another set of jewels used to open up the door to the last boss fight against the youngest Fab Fairy's face, and it'll play out similarly to last time. You save the day, you move forward, your party gets taken from you, which is horseshit. The Roaring Knight could easily solo, and you enter the next area alone. Plus a reprise of the dance number from earlier with your own party thrown in the mix. This time, however, you're stronger. The Dark Lord outright fails in sealing away your job, and you can finally enter a brand new place stronger than before, and you're gonna need it for Carcaton. Fitting enough, the Dark Lord has chosen the volcanic wasteland as his domain, with steam erupting from the ground and nigh a friendly face in sight. Friendly faceless bodies, however.
It's you. Oh, Waluigi. I'm glad we managed to meet here. These 3 here are your friends, right?
Yes.
They were wandering around like, well, faceless chickens. So I brought them back here to safety. Their faces can't have gone that far. What do you say? Are you up for a rescue mission? Excellent. Well then, do allow me to join you.
Carcaton is the loneliest you've been so far, so with the Great Sage by your side, battling through this area becomes a lot easier. He'll slam down fierce lightning bolts and heal you when you're low, but that's chump shit compared to his Tower of Flame, a pillar of pure fire that bursts from a circle formed right under the enemy that does a ton of damage. God, it would be nice to do that myself someday. And this is all him holding back to his own admittance, to give us a chance. The first stretch of Carcaton requires you to save each of your party members that were the last in their respective areas. Now you've gone from saving townspeople you had only just met to your own allies and friends, and it gives this last spree of face saving a stride. Each face you save boosts your own power, adding the person you saved right back onto the squad. This part of Carcaton is a lot less linear than the parts that follow. Instead of pushing straight east to reach the castle, you first gotta scavenge the area around Haven Hollow to build up your team again, and more importantly, save your friends. In due time, Charlie, Megalore, and Beat all make it back, and you get the ability to switch between jobs freely. Yep, just a sec, let me change that back, and there we go. Something I really appreciate here is how your party members are separated. It's not your Greenhorn, Next Door, and Realm of the Fae teams all bunched together. Instead, it's dependent on what party slot they were in at those areas, going from the 4th to the 2nd. Not only does it even out the time you spend with each party member, but it makes the team less efficient. These 3 haven't worked together in battle, nor have they built up friendships with each other, so even though you're stronger, you still have work to do. It makes the team rugged and it feels incomplete, despite this being the same amount of party members you've always had. The rest of Carcaton is more of the same. You enter this volcanic part of the map and your team gets split up by this boulder. It won't be the last time it happens, but it also won't be the same as this first time, and the next time too for good measure. You only have 4 party members at this point, so you're going 2 and 2 on each path, or 4 and 3, whereas in the future, it splits up your total team of 10. So only now is when your numbers are a concern. You'll meet up again and fight against Cerberus, freeing 3 of your party members at once upon defeat. With my party now having the extra backup, Waluigi departs and leads me to my mission that I'm oh so close to completing. And shortly after, we'll enter inside of the Dark Lord's own castle. As the final area you need to conquer before you fight the Fiend, it tests you like no other. Monsters here are more brutal than ever, and you'll have 3 tough boss fights to save those last 3 party members and finally complete your team. Choose the 3 you like best, and after all this time cleaning up after his mess and dealing with his lackeys, it's time to take the fight right to the bastard's face. Dark Lord Peter can slam you down, pulverize the party with rocks, and completely immobilize you with a nightmare. But my team has been doing everything for this, and as if we'll back down. I got the Roaring Knight on my side. Do you think I'm just gonna take a loss now? When his health gets lower, he'll do what he's always done, steal faces and attach them to monsters. It handicaps party members even further, and you'll want to keep them safe until you can get them back. No matter. We can do this. We will do this. For the sake of everyone. No matter how difficult it may prove, Dark Lord Peter will fall. And fall, he does. Victory is ours. That should be the end of all of this, right? Right? What on earth? I feel so weird. Huh. Did you just beat the Dark Lord? I can't say I'm too surprised. I knew you had it in you. Huh? Ah! Look out! Wow!
Sweet, this face comes with a cool new body. Whoa, talk about a makeover. Are you joking? I get great stage powers too? This is even better than being a Dark Lord. I'm now an even Darker Lord. Wahahaha!
With Waluigi's sacrifice, the Dark Lord has been usurped by an even stronger threat to the land, and your journey is far from over, unlike how it seemed just this morning. Now, you're not fighting just to free the world anymore. You're fighting to free your friend. There's this dragon boss you fought earlier and freed from the face attached to it named Dominic. I love him, he's the best. And as a return for your kindness, offers to be your ride through the skies as you try and find where the Dark Lord has fled off to. You don't have any real idea on what to do next, but hey, this is a start, and it's pretty clear to say that this completely opens up the world, having those 4 parts of the map you trek through travelable with one quick flight. It's his idea for you to check out this new area, the Traveler's Hub, because according to Dominic, if you're gonna find someone with a lead, this is the place to find them. From this point on, the tone of the game takes a shift. While the Darker Lord is a stronger foe, he's not nearly as much of an active threat as what the Dark Lord was, doing everything from afar rather than invading towns personally. In addition, you and your team have already proved themselves capable of being the heroes of Miitopia. If anyone's going to take down a stronger Dark Lord, it'll be, well, the people who took down the original Dark Lord. And lastly, the people you help aren't just random townspeople you happen to run into. These Miis are actively looking for assistance with their troubles, and right at the start of your time here, you are desperate for any sort of lead. And while you're searching for one, it's nice to help random people with their own worries, big or small. Again, it's a different vibe than what you've done before, because you have the experience now. Recruits here are based more on the existing jobs you select, making them easier for you to understand, while also making them feel like just another traveler. It takes a bit before you make any substantial progress. Instead, this part before you have anything is to set up the 3 new major locations you'll travel to interchangeably. Your missions exploring the Powdered Peaks and Peculia won't lead to anything just yet. One's pretty self-explanatory as snowy mountains, while Peculia is just a stupid region with whimsical elements such as candy growing on trees, sentient noses, and sub-pockets with biomes you've already encountered. Like, the best way you can describe this place is to call it a fever dream. To say it stands out is an understatement. One has you taking down the abominable snowman, while the other is just to find a hamburger, which is also a boss fight. You still want to bring your all to them despite them being smaller scale bosses, but the game now starts to make that harder. Party members can now get sick, resulting in them being unable to battle until they get better. It's annoying for sure, but it's very clearly put in so you experiment with other members in combinations. There will still be ones you stick to and ones you avoid. Quite literally in this playthrough, I was just never compelled to use speed again since Popstar isn't really that necessary. I'll be fine. Regardless if you're at the strongest you can be or not, it's still fun and simple to do these missions, but like I said, neither of them get you any closer. That'll come on your first visit to Nimbus, a laboratory in the clouds that has some of the best aesthetics in a game loaded with great ones. I just love how it looks. The clouds are this pastel pink and feel fluffy, bringing forth this childlike whimsy, but then the futuristic buildings seen in the background mature up that tone, balancing it out. And the music here too is some of the best. One of the best level themes, map themes, and battle themes. Definitely one of my favorite places in Miitopia. You find your way looking for this recruit's friend, who I made Clementine from Stray and the Pringles guy respectively, because she believes he might have mentioned something about the Darker Lord. Not the strongest lead, but it's the best one you got at this point. This then leads into how your average boss fight tends to work in Traveler's quests. Either the recruit you're with or their friend gets their face attached to the boss, you beat them, everything is resolved with them, and these characters just get wiped from the game's memory. And as usual, everything's left up to you. You want to cycle through the memes you haven't used yet for these roles, or do you want to just not go through all that hassle and stick with whatever the game assigns, whether from your save data, the game's default memes, or popular ones from the 3DS version, which were the only options you got back on that system. Since this was being recorded, I did want to give every mission me their own face for the sake of visual cohesiveness, but these were all on what limited guidelines I was given, and that's for the ones that randomly generated into the default memes I wanted to change out. I've spent the game so far with people that I know will always be there, so who's gonna be the ones that fade away? These memes feel a lot more snappy, I guess. They got the problem, you got the fight, everything's all settled. What I'm getting at is that there's a different feeling to the memes you add to the game in the second half, one that feels less impactful, but by design. You're working quest after quest until you can find out what to do next, and even when you learn of the Dark Lord's whereabouts, you still have more and more quests to deal with. Overall, the second half's not as substantial as the time you spent before, with the Dark Lord being about half as long. I only have like, what, a fourth of the video left compared to the rest spent focusing on the first half and basic game mechanics? My total combined footage for the first half was 67 gigabytes, while the second half in comparison was 40. Like, it's fine that it's smaller, it just feels a bit less important because of that, and I don't know if you want that for the final part of the game. Anyway, after my team saves Mr. Pringles, he informs us of the skyscraper, the exact location of the Darker Lord. What a lead. Similar to doors we've encountered earlier, however, the entrance is locked and we need jewels to open it up, this time in the arrangement of a face. And to find those is more quests. This formula is what the rest of the game runs on far into the post-game. You launch it every day, get 2 or 3 quests to do, take care of them, and ideally close the game and do something else with your time. These later ones, after everything's settled, are even lower stakes with no real goal other than helping out. Stuff like this was mixed in with the quests you were required to do as a bit of a distraction and to help you ease into the new formula. It's quest after quest after quest, and besides the skyscraper and 2 new areas reserved for the post-game, that's it. It turns Miitopia into somewhat of a daily game, not something you're going to sink an insane amount of hours into. At least, not at once. I've still got like 300 hours logged into this game, and that's just the Switch version. And if that sounds repetitive, oh yeah, it most definitely is. You can only do so much while adhering to the same structure. But like, it's not a problem worth getting worked up about. The system's a pick up and play design because this is still a 3DS game we're talking about. It's fine to just play it for an hour and move on. And if you ever want more than that from the post-game, Miitopia provides something else to do. Those 2 new locations are Galados Isle and New Lumos. Starting off with the first of the 2, these tropical islands are precarious, but worth stifling for the brand new elf job, which works similarly to what you saw the Fab Fairies do earlier in Realm of the Fae, along with some extra stuff. It's not the only one of its kind either. There's an optional mission where you journey through a haunted manor and get the vampire job as a reward for clearing a boss monster out of there. It's a pretty solid role for damage and support, but I have no footage of either job because I didn't want to start any of my party members from scratch just so I could go further in depth about a trivial talking point. New Lumos, on the other hand, is a lot more explicit in challenging you. 8 districts whose whole appeal is monsters stronger than any you've seen before, just itching with combat potential, aided by the excellent backdrop and music. And your party will continue to get even stronger here, unleashing powerful moves you could only dream of at level 1, including your very own Tower of Flame you get to summon yourself. A true demonstration of how far you've come. Simple to say that Miitopia will keep you satiated long after you beat it, though it will get repetitive. But let's wind back to where we just were. These 4 face jewels don't take long to find, as you quickly take on quests that do anything as mention a cool looking rock. Similar to the other gemstone gathering you've done prior, there really isn't anything to say. This time, however, you're going through places new and old, making it less clear where the next one may be. It's nice to come back to those areas you once saved stronger than what you were before and doing something completely unrelated. It's hard to feel like that person who did all that not long ago and the person you are now are one and the same, and it brings home your end goal. And also, I do want to briefly mention how pretty Gontu Cave is. Everything's this icy blue, and those reflections on the floor are crystal clear. Like, they did not need to go this far for a place that only exists as a sub-area. But eventually, you gather all 4 face jewels, take the fight to the Darker Lord like it's nothing, and fly up to the skyscraper. We've got all the skyscraper jewels. We should be able to get into the tower. And then, finish off Darker Lord Waluigi once and for all. Yeah. Well, the Darker Lord isn't really Waluigi. I've got to do this. Exactly. Thanks. Stepping foot in, it's apparent that this is unlike anything you've seen before, and a sharp contrast to the Dark Lord's castle. Sure, it feels alien and imposing with all the astronomical imagery, making the tower deserving of being this late into the game, but it remains beautiful to look at. The world map music here encapsulates that, with these twinkly and ethereal sounds echoing throughout, and a powerful repeating bass in the back. And that song is great and all, but if you're familiar with Miitopia, you know that's not the song the skyscraper's best known for, not by a long shot. I, of course, am referring to the area's battle theme. The score of Miitopia is already one of its strongest aspects, if not the strongest, and this song is one of the best it offers. Without arpeggio constant throughout the song, it encapsulates both the mystical and dangerous feelings I've already touched on, and the drums are fast-paced to ramp up the intensity. But most important of all, there's one last feeling found in the song that hasn't been felt in this area yet. Hope. Hope for your endeavors to succeed and to free the land and your friend from the dark curse. And that sensation of hope is best felt in the part where the French horn takes center stage at the tail end. Take a listen. And for the slew of really good battle themes Miitopia has under its belt, I couldn't think of a better one to cap off the standard selection. To truly feel like the final gauntlet, inside of the tower is every villain you've ever faced, starting off with a rematch against the original Dark Lord, which is used to set up Peter here to accompany me on my climb up. He doesn't really do much at all, but he can provide some HP bananas when on the spot, and combat functionality isn't why he's here. Instead, he's used to shed light on his perspective of being the Dark Lord, illustrated in various conversations we had between levels. So, how did you end up becoming the Dark Lord?
That's not an easy story. I used to work in a banana factory. I made lots and lots of HP bananas every day. I wondered whether I'd be making bananas forever. I wondered whether I'd be happy with that life. And when I thought about that, I heard a voice. I'll give you power, it said. I'll turn you into a most powerful being. I was so tempted by that voice. It led me to open a forbidden box. Something black flew out and took hold of me. It was really scary. It stole my body and turned me into the evil Dark Lord. Hey, are you listening?
Oh, yeah, that sounds terrible.
By the way, the person the curse has hold of now is...
the Great Sage Waluigi. My mentor!
Oh no, not the Great Sage.
One of the coolest things about the whole twist surrounding the true identity of the Dark Curse is when you have no idea that the main villain is just some nobody that got possessed. So you naturally would be inclined to cast an evil-looking me into the role, but that's not how it works. No matter how evil the me you put there, they're gonna end up to be your average Joe, and that can completely alter how the role fits. And them being like that goes to help characterize the Dark Curse. You've seen what can happen when its host is just a random guy, and it makes it a lot more threatening now that it has an already powerful figure under its influence. And not only do they do this with the Dark Curse, but also yourself. Both of you started out as people with no real stake in this world, doing nothing but working a dead-end job and wandering around with no real goal respectively. All it took was the power of some sort of higher being to completely change that. But while the ex-Dark Lords was fueled by a resentment for their current life, ours was caused because we wanted to make a difference. Because I wanted to help one child. God, that feels so long ago. And look at me. I've got a party of 10 and a great amount of experience fending off against the threats thrown at me. Not even the refights of the final bosses of the 3 areas we spend so long trekking through can slow us down. Seriously, for major boss refights, they're on the easier side. But as grand as the skyscraper is, it is only the staircase to where the Darker Lord truly lies. An otherworldly place simply known as Otherworld. Peter parts with us here and we brave the unknown. It is just an extension of the skyscraper with it reusing the same battle music, but hey, I'm not complaining about that. The visuals have a completely different tone. A horde of face parts float around in the sky to remind you why you're doing this one last time, and really drive the alien feel of the place, as if the literal alien monsters didn't do that already. It's a small area, and it takes no time to corner the Dark Lord and enter the final boss to finally, no fake outs this time, end this whole charade once and for all.
Wahahaha! So you finally made it up here. I thought I was gonna die of boredom.
You leave Great Sage Waluigi alone. Give our Great Sage back.
Oh, you want your great sage back? Well then, come and try your luck. Ah. Ah! Wahahaha! Would you take a look at this fine new form of mine? Can you feel it? That raw, overwhelming power? Come then, let us end this.
I have made a huge mistake. With the Darker Lord now upgraded to a 2-hands-and-head boss, you'll need all 10 of your Miis to take down all 3 segments back to back, each more intense than the last, ideally saving your best 4 for the face. Miitopia's combat is at its most strategic yet, as to be expected from the final boss, with effective use of the save spot being imperative, especially since sprinkles won't replenish between each phase, so you better be sure before you start using them. The first phase against the left hand is nothing too extraordinary, but it's still a threat you need to be wary of. It'll fling face coins at high speeds and slash at you, and can be dangerous if your worst 3 are way behind. The right hand, though, takes a more interesting approach. Its moves are stuff you've seen before, from the Great Sage. The lightning bolts, the explosions, everything. The Tower of Flames are even now a lock-on move that you better make sure you properly protect against. Eventually, both will fall. And now, the final battle.
We'll leave the rest to you, Afar. Huh? Did I catch you at a bad time? Allow me to show you my true power! Say your prayers!
It's finally here. Our last battle. Enter the Darkest Lord. What a final boss theme. There isn't a whole lot at first to differentiate this fight from any other boss you've faced. It's still the whole deal of working with your party members to deal constant damage and to keep everyone healthy. But the stakes, the atmosphere, ooh, you can cut the tension with a knife. He'll summon the faces of your other allies as coins to act as backup as you try and keep your focus on that golden sun. And while he's not doing that, take what the hands were doing tenfold, dealing more damage to everyone. But this is the best of the best the land of Miitopia has to offer. A set of 4 you helped sculpt. Not even his retaliation when he reaches half health, which brings everyone down to 1 HP, is enough to dismay the fight. We've got the resources to keep going, the members to support each other, the warrior to absolutely swoon the competition, and one last mega fire from none other than myself to end the fight with one final bang.
No! Not this time. Take that! Listen well, Dark Curse. You won't be able to move, so don't bother trying.
Ian, I am truly grateful to you for rescuing me.
I wonder if you might indulge me.
This is the story of the Dark Curse's past. A long, long time ago, he was just a normal human. Although he was very sad and lonely. Why does everyone ignore me? Please, anyone, just notice me. Now I see. It's this face of mine. This no good, plain, boring face. And with that, he cast away his own face. He was rid of the thing he resented so badly. But without a face, how could he cling to existence? Before long, he had disappeared. Leaving behind a soul full of hatred, malice, and envy. And so, the Great Sage offers you a choice. End the Dark Curse once and for all, or restore the soul of who they once were. Doing the former is pretty simple. You fire a laser beam and it's kaput. Choosing otherwise leads to a kinder path, and will give you one final role to fill. And for this, I've always liked just doing a default me. Mostly because it aligns with the whole backstory of blending in with a crowd, but in a world that is filled with some of the wackiest motherfuckers around, being just a normal guy is pretty special. Miitopia shows what can happen when an unremarkable person gains the power to make a difference. Either you can cause the world to suffer, or fight back against the suffering in hope of a better world. And doing one last good deed for the specter that set us down this path of countless trials is a nice way to wrap things up. You may have gotten the power to fight long ago, but it was your choice to fight that led to the freeing of the land. And look how far my me has come from just a lone traveler. He's part of a 10-person party that just saved everyone's faces, all because of what I made of my journey. What I made of myself, who I interacted with, what jobs we ended up using, what party members I ended up sticking to, all of that was left up to me. There's an ancient proverb that goes something around the lines of, dudes be like, Subway sucks. My brother in Christ, you made the sandwich. What you get is what you put in, and that's especially true with a game as customizable as Miitopia. Part of the reason I had as much fun as I did is because of the characters being literally anyone. I got to team up with Silver the Hedgehog and join forces with the Roaring Knight pretty much just because I thought it would be funny. I got to save the face of Sans Undertale off of a giant pharaoh head. Hell, for most of the game, I was trying to take down Peter fucking Griffin. It makes what would just be a pretty simple and standard RPG super memorable and fun, and something I think is worth talking about for this long. Subway still sucks though, your choices can't save dog shit bread and ingredients. The cookies are good though. And look at all these f***ass blorbos that are now the heroes of Miitopia. The credits are a fun resolution to everything, with Hugh and Lily's wedding even playing out. Just in this game though, he would never portray his marriage to Mr. Antenna. And, if you're lucky, when you boot up the game again, you may get to see Shadow the Hedgehog in a maid dress. Well, that's about everything I have to say about Miitopia. It's a game that's dear to me and something I've wanted to make a video on for the longest time. Seriously, my first attempt at a scripted video was for this game, but a bunch of technical difficulties with recording, restarts of the playthrough with completely different me's, and dissatisfaction with that script led to it being abandoned. I'm glad that it did end up writing that though, because it set me off on one of my biggest purposes in life, and this video wouldn't be half as good without it, or may have not even existed at all. And I want to make more videos like this, as in longer form retrospectives on a single game. It's interesting to pick apart just exactly why I care about something as much as I do and turn it into this. And I plan on making more things like it, so stay tuned. With all that, subscribe so you don't lose me, and like and comment to show me and the YouTube algorithm how you felt about this video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.